So many people competing for so little space. Not townspeople, but refugees whose flocks once fed on grass, not on stony dirt like this. These are the forgotten Palestinians of the Arab diaspora. The Palestinians who were driven out of their homes when the State of Israel was created in 1948. Today, many people in this army of 4 million still live in appalling refugee camps scattered all across the Arab world. Ain Helweh in the city of Sidon is Lebanon's largest refugee camp. This 1 square mile of bumper-to-bumper traffic and do-it-yourself infrastructure is home to 70,000 Palestinian refugees. They lack the most basic rights. They are denied Lebanese citizenship, but also denied the right of return to their homeland. They are banned from more than 70 professions for fear they may seek to settle here in Lebanon. Turki is 77 years old. Widowed by war and without any benefits, she scratches a living the only way she can. My life in Palestine was wonderful. It wasn't like here, in the garbage. Isn't that right? If we collect garbage, we can eat. If we don't, we can't. We're forced to eat dirt. Dirt. Palestine was a golden land. It wasn't like this. Here, there's nothing but lorries, and the roads are all broken. In this section of the camp, Palestinians who have been displaced within Lebanon by massacres and by war live in conditions many would consider subhuman. With no water supply from the Lebanese state, these poorest of the poor have to buy water, and even this isn't safe for drinking. Zahra Rajib Hussein belongs to the generation that has never seen Palestine. She's lived all her 25 years in this filthy slum, fighting for survival. Our neighbour lives by collecting tin cans and selling them for a few pennies. He earns just enough to eat with nothing for tomorrow. If he's ill, they don't eat. My husband can't work. He's lost a leg. We wait until midnight to sleep because of the heat from the tin roofs. It's impossible to sleep before that. Almost 75 families live like this. Millions of delegations visit us here. They all make promises, but we see nothing. They promise to fix the sewage, the water and the pipes, and that's the end of it. The secret peace agreement reached in Oslo between PLO chairman Yasser Arafat and Israel's Shimon Peres left the thorny issue of the Palestinian diaspora unresolved.
There are some differences, small differences.
But they weren't small to the Palestinians of 48, whom no one wants. In Ain Helweh, Arafat saw his commanders tear down his posters to protest their exclusion from his Palestinian state. They packed their bags and moved into opposition. But now the neglected diaspora is at the heart of the peace process. And Arafat, keen to control the diaspora card, has mounted a comeback in Ain Helweh. After years of neglect of Lebanon, his Fatah movement is investing in schools, in infrastructure, but most conspicuously in fighters. All across Ain Helweh, armed Palestinians man checkpoints once again. Fatah offices have been reopened. And Munir Mukhtar, the man who led the revolt from Fatah, has been tempted back to the fold. It's a reminder for many Lebanese of the days when the PLO attacked Israel across the border of South Lebanon and ran a state within a state from its headquarters in West Beirut. It was a domineering and often violent reign that ended with the evacuation of PLO fighters after the Israeli invasion of 1982. Abu Adham, Fatah's most senior official in Ain Helweh today, is insistent that the days of Palestinian militancy are past. He says Fatah's military revival is defensive, to allay the fears of a people with reason to fear. I know Ain Helweh is a long way from the Israeli border, but we here still remember what happened in Sabra and in Shatila, the massacres in Sabra and Shatila that claimed the lives of 3,000 people, 3,000 of our Palestinian people. Arafat's man in Ain Helweh says the military aspect of Fatah's revival has been exaggerated. Our chairman, Yasser Arafat, has instructed us to work to ease the social and the economic conditions of our people in the camps, to try to ameliorate their health and their educational status. He's given us orders to offer them whatever we can. But it is nevertheless the military face of Fatah that dominates the camp, singing the same old songs it sang when the PLO was a fighting force in Lebanon. Fatah is rebuilding its military infrastructure. Then it may turn its attention to the humanitarian sector and start helping the people in the future, step by step. But up to now, we haven't seen anything. The people are still suffering, still living in cramped homes that are hot in summer and that leak in winter. Nothing has changed. The anti-Arafat factions in Ain Helweh, grouped under the banner of Arafat's arch-rival, Syrian President Hafez al-Assad, say they are disturbed by the militarization of the camp. Even political independents like Ghazi Assadi say they fear the consequences.
We don't deny that Fatah and PLO are providing services, but the
Today, this little corner of Palestine in Lebanon is under virtual siege by the Lebanese army. Lebanese troops enforce strict controls at both entrances to the camp, accusing it of sheltering criminals and adding to the pressures that many believe must one day explode, especially if the political deadlock over the refugees cannot be broken. It's a shame that some Lebanese officials point the finger at Ain Helweh every time there is a crime or a breach of security in Sidon. They want to give the camp a bad name in the eyes of the international community, to imply that we give refuge to terrorists and to outlaws. It would be more correct to wait for the courts to speak, for the security branch to find the real culprits. In June this year, 2 men armed with automatic rifles opened fire in Sidon's Justice Palace, killing 4 judges as they sat at the bench. The massacre was immediately blamed on Ain Helweh, although all these months later, the perpetrators are still being sought. These women and children are the latest victims of Lebanon's discomfort with its Palestinian population. Fatah's weapons were not lifted in their defense when their homes a few meters outside the camp's official boundaries were bulldozed a few weeks ago. Today they are squatting in the offices of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Namad Hamad and her 75-year-old neighbor, Abu Ibrahim, lost everything they owned when troops were sent in without any warning to demolish their shacks to make way for a highway. This immense scar was once home to several hundred Palestinians. The bulldozers were ruthless. The noise of the bulldozers woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've got a young daughter, and I took her to her grandmother's. When I came back 10 minutes later, our homes were gone. What remained was the wreckage of their lives. That, and troops armed with tear gas. We tried to get back to see what had happened to our homes. To stop us, they started firing canisters of tear gas. My neighbour was ill. He couldn't take it. He fainted and collapsed. His daughter fled into the orange groves. I was in my home when they raided us. I wanted to collect my medicine, but they wouldn't allow me to. I wanted to get a shirt, but they wouldn't allow me to. My wife wanted to bring her slippers, but they hit her in the back. Palestinian civilians in Lebanon are well acquainted with tragedy. After decades of war, most of them have little time for the armed men who grow in Arafat's shadow. They want a future for their children, room for them to breathe. They don't want to be a political football in Arafat's endgame with Israel. They know that fighters like these are more show than substance. But they also know that a show like this can be used against them by enemies who always have their finger on the trigger. You want to give to the camp and they hide the camp a bad opportunities of the international community to imply that